Thank you very much. Lots of
We
help
are
from the
regulators, so we
regulator.
had to help you as a fintech startup.
Lots of help. Thanks. Well, I'm Cosmin Curticăpean. I'm a fintech founder. I founded iFactor. It's a fintech in the SME lending space. We have started with a marketplace where SMEs were applying for loans, private investors and banks can bid for these applications. We do the KYC, we do the underwriting. For this we had some interactions with NBR, thank you very much, in the past. Then we moved and pivoted to a model where we are selling SaaS, intelligence service decline for credit risk assessment for corporations. And in this case here, we actually started to engage into more complex models for corporate loans. That's me. I would like to say that probably this will be the boldest panel of this conference, this beautiful conference. Why is because it's a fintech founder that will actually moderate a regulator and a consultant, which is quite funny in a sense. So just in order to manage your expectations, I would like to let Alexandra and then Ionuț to introduce themselves in 30 seconds, and then we'll continue with a set of questions that I kindly will ask them to answer as proper as possible.
Hello. I'm Alexandra Manciulea. I'm a partner with Filip and Company. I'm a lawyer. I play the consultant role in this panel. I'm very excited to be here, and I want to thank everyone who stayed for our panel. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Ionuț. I'm within the National Bank of Romania. We are on the oversight, but on the oversight department we also have the Innovation Hub as a contact point for fintechs, and also we collaborate with the consultants. I think the right order of the chair will be here to be on the side of fintechs, the national bank or the competent authority, and within, in the middle, had to be the legal consultant. But anyways, I want to say that... We are
innovators. We innovate everything, even chair sitting.
Indeed. In the last minute, we can innovate it. Yeah. No, we had to have a strategy. That is our point. And before entering in the presentation, I would also like to say that our expertise is also in the authorization and licensing in the last 10 or 12 years. And before moving to the oversight, I also was working in the licensing process, and we can give you some information mainly on the innovation, of course, in our experience on the Innovation Hub. Thank you.
In this panel, we are so regulated that actually, if you see, none of the panels, people were actually sitting against their picture, and this is such regulated panel that we are very aligned with the pictures behind us. So let's set up the ground. Basically, let's imagine this. Fintechs are teenagers, right? Banks in general are the adults in the playground, and then you have the regulators, which are the policemen. Am I right? You agree with me?
So it's more or less the father, yes. Maybe
the father.
Correct.
Father.
Yeah.
Okay. The police, the father who's a policeman. Okay, and then you have the consultants, who are the people that manage to introduce you many times with your neighbor. That's the. Oh, I apologize. No, the consultants actually they are the teachers and the trainers and the people that has to indeed create the liaison between the fintechs and the regulator. So that being said, I'd like to go into the questions, and I would like to ask you if in the last years we had quite a thriving period of fintech, let's say, pop-ups, and we see a lot of innovation in the financial services. We see already from year to year to this conference, we see the banks that are introducing a lot of digitalization and innovation into their services. What would you say that it would be the takeaways regarding the potential of the Romanian fintech scene and fintech industry scene?
I will start. Indeed, we've seen a lot of growth in the last 5 years. If I remember correctly, 5 years ago, we wouldn't be speaking about the Romanian Fintech Association, and now it's here with us in the room. Also, I think the Fintech Hub that Ionuț was mentioning was making its first baby steps. And it's just, these are just proofs that the ecosystem has evolved a lot in terms of number of companies active in the sector, in terms of segments of the fintech sector that they approach, and also in terms of the innovative solutions they offer. We've seen also a lot of regulatory developments, and for sure, 5 years ago when I first came to these conferences, I was telling everyone how late Romania is with implementing PSD2 and other regulations. Well, in the meantime, we didn't only catch up with the regulations, but now we are keeping the pace with the EU developments and changes in the legislation. And yes, these are happening at a faster pace than ever before, and it's important to keep the pace with them. And also, we've seen in the last years a lot of development in the communication with the regulators. This panel is proof of that. And we've seen both regulators and I would say also consultants willing to learn from the market and also to teach the market. So I think there is a lot of growth potential for the fintech sector going forward. But a catalyst for this growth would be for ongoing communication between the main players in the field to continue, and for everyone to identify as many communication opportunities as possible. Conferences like this are just an example, but there are other ways in which we can meet and exchange ideas, even more technical ones, so that we help the sector grow and reach the potential that it can reach. And we turn Romania into a fintech hub comparable to UK, let's say, or other jurisdictions who have proved how good they can navigate this segment.
Ionuț, same question for you.
Yes, thank you so much for the opportunity for being here and sharing with you our experience. I would mainly refer on our experience on the Innovation Hub and what does it mean for us at the beginning, what was our idea to create a contact point, just for this to be in contact with what is happening on the fintech side, for example, in the technical developments. The idea it is first to take the pulse and to be in touch with them, to know, because, you know, if I had to say a gap that has been identified on this side, it is that it is more support from our side needed by the fintech companies on the guidance, especially from when they are presenting innovative solutions, on the guidance they need indeed for the authorization process if those type of activity that are envisaged by the fintech companies will require eventually an authorization or registration or the other kind of legal involvement from the competent authority.
Can you quote like 2 bullet points of the interaction that you have, especially in the fintech hub?
I don't want to go into statistics because I already said that the statistic...
something very applied, yeah.
But eventually this statistic, happily or unfortunately, on one side, we have more than 60 applications, close to 70 applications of innovative solutions, of course, of different stages of maturity and level of innovation involved. And ultimately, from the fintech point of view, pure fintechs that had applied within the Innovation Hub, only 2 or 3 of them has been authorized. And this is a balance, and it is need to be more analysis on this, what can be done to improve these numbers in order to support the fintechs.
So that being said, Alexandra, when you're looking to this space, how well do you think fintechs are prepared when actually they are looking into the market in the way the value proposition should be deployed into the market, and then how well do you think they do their homework? Let's put it this way: the teenagers do their homework in order to actually tackle the complicated space of financial services, and especially when we all know that all the regulatory frame, it's quite a hassle or even for somebody who's very experienced, like the consultants, nevertheless the founders?
So I would say that indeed there is a lot of complexity in the financial field, and it's important for fintechs to know that it doesn't come from the Romanian legislation, or it comes from the EU directives, who sometimes tend to be very technical and complicated. And this is our role, this is when our role comes into stage, as we need to explain to clients in simple terms aspects that are very technical and very legalistic, so to say. And we need to find, as consultants, this is our role, to find the ground to make things that are complicated seem simpler or be explained in simple terms. And yes, here, at least for the authorization process, it's very important to identify the right consultant for you with whom you have good communication, first of all, and who also has experience in this kind of matters. And fintechs need to be prepared for a complex process. They need to properly do their homework, and their homework first is to properly identify whether they need a license and what kind of license they need, whether they can adjust their business model in such ways that a license might not be required. There are many exemptions in the PSD2 and also in the e-money legislation, and which allow certain activities to be performed without license. So it is important to see whether any adaptation can be done to the business model without compromising it. And now we're also looking at the PSD3 that is coming, so assessment should be done from that perspective as well. And once they've done the assessment, the conclusion can be that one license might not be sufficient. If the business projection is, I don't know, to develop the business of the fintech, let's say, in the future in the lending sector, perhaps a payment institution license is not sufficient, and they need to already consider getting a non-banking financial institution.
I hate to interrupt, but let's bring it more actionable.
Yeah.
Let's put it this way. So you have the teenager, and you have the regulations, which are very tough, the homework. Yes. And then you are the trainer or the teacher. How actually you can, what are the actions that a consultant would take to make the extra mile to make the teenager understand? Because, you know, sometimes teenagers tend to jump the exams. They think they will go through it easier. They will probably not really do their homework well. How do you make them understand, actually, in simple terms? Because we all know fintech startups are usually run by, I don't know, some techies, right? So there are some students from Polytechnic, they identify a problem and they start coding something. How do they understand that those lines of codes will generate impact in financial services once, and that those lines of codes with the effect that they will produce in the market, they need to actually be covered by the regulation? How we do that in simple terms?
So what we normally do after, let's say, we go through this regulatory analysis and identify what kind of licenses are or are not needed, if we learn that the license is needed, we do the so-called mapping. We provide this checklist of documents, which is not just an empty checklist copied from the legislation, but it comes also with explanations, which explanations come from whatever clarifications the European regulators have given in relation to that documentation. And when this happens, you might be surprised as a fintech to learn that certain documents are not purely legal. Many of them have a business component, a financial component, or a technical component. So when we are talking about advisors, we're not talking just about the legal side, but it's a pool of advisors that need to be consulted in order to have those documents ready. I think it's important to sit in the same room with the client, go through each document and the requirements, and if, let's say, because it's an ongoing learning process, also for fintechs, also for us as consultants, and if we need clarifications, we very often write or set up meetings with the National Bank of Romania for clarifications to help us as early as possible in the process, so that we prevent the process from becoming lengthier than we want.
Ionuț, how do you see this extra mile
Yes,
that the regulator and the consultant actually should take in order to make them understand?
Yes, I understand, right. As Alexandra said, this is an important feature of this process in order, before formally apply, for example, for a license or authorization, a fintech that first it needs to apply, this is the first steps, to apply into the fintech innovation hub in order to know, from the technical point of view, to know the innovation and to set internal meetings with different departments involved to assess this innovation, close link it to this solution. And the recommendation it always be that we have a pre-consultative before apply formally to the licensing for a different type of licenses. I don't want to name it. And this is a feature that is also prevailed by the legal framework. You had a pre-consultation process, and you have to explain what is going to be needed, and the consultants have a very important role to explain to the fintechs and to the innovative what are the solutions in order to have a better approach for a successful eventually entry into the market.
Excellent. So let's have a takeaway from this. Basically, we can solve the disparity of understanding actually through having the consultant paving the way, and then with all the initiatives of the regulator, and we have to applaud all the initiatives in the last year, at least the ones we can see, and the collaborations that we have with the Romanian Fintech Association and members of the Romanian Fintech Association with NBR. We have quite an engaging interaction, and thank you very much for being open for that. But in fact, probably the takeaway will be that we can pave the disparity of understanding with introducing consultants. And at the end of this panel, I would like to actually have, if it is probably an actionable point, in which I will suggest that probably we can actually do some actions after this conference in that matter. But I would like to go to continue now with the questions. And I would both ask you, apart from authorization and regulatory compliance, what are the other legal or technical issues that you encounter with the fintech startups? I mean, if we just take the...
We have to be clear on that, close connected to your question, it is that we have to look this in both perspective, from the fintechs and from the competent authorities within the EU, whatever will be that competent authorities, not namely our National Bank of Romania. It is a balance that we thought that in the Innovation Hub. We also members of the EU level that have the same assessment that indeed fintechs need more guidance on understanding the legal requirements. They are very busy in this field indeed. And on the other side, on the competent authorities, to understand the technical solutions in order to better integrate to include it into the whatever payment services or other financial services that will need for authorization. And in order for this, they had to be in close contact with the fintechs, because we don't know, because this is a very accelerating and new environment in this, and the developments are huge. And we can stay, only can succeed when staying in close contact with the fintechs and understanding the technical solutions for a better approach from our perspective of competent authorities. Yeah, that's, I think.
Alexandra.
I would say that besides authorization and compliance, one important thing that is going on in the life of fintechs is the share capital increases they go through. It's important to be properly advised through the rounds and financings, so they properly protect the rights of the initial investors and of the coming investors, of course. And
founders.
Yeah, the founders. And we've also seen, for example, some of the fintechs growing to a sufficiently developed stage so that they are already acquired by other fintechs or by banks. And an example recently of a transaction in which our team advised is the acquisition of Orange Money by Alpha Bank. Also, other areas in which we've been requested to advise is the qualification of e-money, of certain activities, whether they qualify as e-money or not. Some activities like issuing reward points, which some of the fintechs do, or issuing vouchers. If you don't pay very careful attention to these kind of matters, you may fall without wanting into the e-money regime. We've also advised neobanks with setting up a presence in Romania. We've been involved in also in the buy now pay later area. Here it's an area actually where important developments are coming, and I think it's important from a legislation perspective for everyone to know there is a new directive in place which will soon be published in the official journal, and which will clarify the regime of buy now pay later matters, which so far hasn't been so clear in the legislation. So these are just examples. In the future we expect requests from clients to be for clarifications in the area of PSD3, because you know we already have a draft of PSD3 which is expected to be improved in the next year and hopefully even adopted in a lucky scenario. And also we expect questions from the area of the MiCA regulation to develop, because that is a regulation that is entering into force at the end of next year, and it's going to change the landscape.
So just for the people who are not very familiar with this regulatory frames with these names, but let's try to give, to put a name on what actually are the values of these regulations. So let's try to make an example of three most important things that PSD3 brings new into the market, and maybe also MiCA.
Yeah.
Yes, I will start on the PSD3, and I think the most important thing that is had to be in the picture of fintechs that wants to project his activity over 3 years as planning, that will be a single legal framework applicable for authorization and supervision for payment institutions and electronic money institutions as a single legal framework for this licensing and supervision process, but with the extension of the object of activity as e-money activity close to the object of activity that will be provided by payment institutions.
How does this help in simple words in the market?
Will help on clarifying that the activity, for example, if you will be authorized as a payment institutions, it'd be very easy to have a supplementation of the object of the activity, and that will help in order to, you don't have to start another licensing process for another type of institutions. And this is helpful because indeed it is a very complex process of authorization within the EU framework. One doesn't matter the jurisdictions, it is complex, a lot of requirements. We understand that the burden that is on the fintech side. That's why it is always helpful to have a consultant before applying for any kind of authorization, and to benefit from the legal framework that have in place those consultation process, because the timing is very short in order to complete all the documents and information needed as
Indeed. So this is where actually potential fintechs will gain benefit out of the PSD3. But let's try to just imagine a use case where the end customer, a company or an individual, will actually gain benefit by the fact that fintechs will actually benefit out of this new regulation.
For example, I want to say, for example, that was discussed last day with the super apps, for example. And this legal framework that PSD3 will give in place, it's a complete package that will also include the FIDA, financial access to financial data. That would means that, for example, a mobile app will also have two sides of financial information, one on the payment side, that we have this also on the PSD2, and we also have access on the financial data as a whole, a dashboard where we have pensions and different other types of insurance and other types of products and financial data. And you'll have a complete picture that a super app, for example, can bring to the ultimate experience, as improve experience users, for example. And there are a lot of opportunities here to develop by the fintechs. And this is expected from...
Before Alexandra answering, I want to see in the room, please raise hand who understands properly what the super app means. So quite a few,
Quite a
but
lot of
actually
understanding, I
it's
think.
quite a lot, yeah. So okay, so this is Alexandra, please.
Yes, I just, from the perspective of PSD3, I just wanted to make aware fintechs that are looking to apply for a license and have not done it yet. I would advise them to already look at the provision of PSD3. Because it is important to try to be compliant, let's say, in advance, because those regulations will eventually come into force. And also, fintechs that already have a license, I believe it is advisable to already start analyzing the provisions of PSD3, because having a license does not make them fully equipped for the PSD3. They will need to look what additional compliance requirements they need to observe, whether they whether they need reauthorization or some additional measures to be taken in order to be compliant with PSD3. So I would advise them to analyze the gap between where they are and what PSD3 will require from them from the beginning, so that they have time to implement the relevant changes.
Miss Teacher, please don't scare the founder
No,
away.
no,
He will
I'm
be in a
just-
club already by this time. So
I'm just trying to bring awareness and yeah, to do things in advance if we can.
okay, so before we will get questions from the audience with the Razvan, we have time. Okay, so before that, let's put all this let's wrap up into this into an actionable item. Is National Bank of Romania willing to come to the Romanian Fintech Association and together with us to try to prepare with a simple app or something, kind of a matrix of resources and time or other type of statistics that will actually be required from a five-guy startup that will try to enter into the market? So that we do together something like this under the FinTech Hub, and is a consultant like Alexandra willing to come and help with that?
My response is simple, definitely.
Yes, on our side, indeed, we have a close cooperation with the FinTech Association, the Romanian FinTech Association, within the Innovation FinTech Hub, and it is indeed in all help to be to keep this connection and to come with you. Yes, indeed, we have this assessment. We had first touch is to apply into the FinTech Innovation Hub. This is the legal framework. We are also in a boundaries that we are engaging, and we had to assess this kind of cooperation. And we are open
so
to
after this panel, Cristian Pasha, he's in the room here. He's board member of the Romanian Fintech Association. We have here we also Nick, and we have our colleague also here. So everybody's aligned now. We should actually have a meeting, right? And try to build up this small framework that I think it might be helpful. Any questions for my guests this evening, please? A bank, I would like a bank to ask something, NBR. Let's see if somebody from a bank would, or a neobank. We have no neobank in the room. No. Maybe the consultant? So everybody's aligned with all the compliance and regulatory frame, or are you very afraid of it? Let's put it this way. Who thinks that the regulatory frame in any kind of regulation, it's extremely complicated and very hard to navigate? Just raise hands. All the rest, no. So, well, no, let's put it this way. Who thinks it's easy to navigate? Let's put it this way. The consultants say yes. The consultants. Okay, yes. Okay, thank you very much for the panel. Thank you for being patient with us, and see you soon.
Thanks, everyone.